Justice Amy Coney Barrett has done it again. She is continuing to infuriate the MAGA world. You want to hear the latest. Let's discuss. I'm Dave Aronberg, former state attorney for Palm Beach County, a.k.a. the Florida lawman here on Legal AF. Thank you for getting us well over 600,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button. And it's time, I think, that we give Amy Coney Barrett her due. Yes, I know she was appointed by Donald Trump. Yes, I know she replaced the legendary Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And I know she did vote to overturn Roe v. Wade, even though she testified at her Senate confirmation, like others, that Roe v. Wade was settled law. All true. She did all that. But since then, she has continued to give MAGA a thumb to the eye. She has continued to infuriate them with her rulings. And in the oral argument on birthright citizenship, it was no different. It's like she feeds off the anger from the MAGA world, who are so disappointed that she's not lockstep, like Alito and Thomas. Now, you notice I didn't say the other justices that Trump appointed. Gorsuch and Kavanaugh have been much more with Trump and MAGA than Amy Coney Barrett, but occasionally they will stray. And they did so in the recent ruling on the deportations, on the use of the Alien Enemies Act. It was 7-2, and the only two who went along with Trump's policy were Alito and Thomas. But as far as the justices that Trump appointed, by far, of the three, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett is by far the most independent and is the one that's going to give MAGA fits for decades. And this is what happens when you have the strategy of nominating someone for the Supreme Court who is relatively young. Well, that means you're going to have to deal with them for many decades to come, because essentially, I mean, you miscalculated. You thought she was someone that she's not. I mean, yes, she was hardcore on abortion, but on a lot of other issues, she sides with the progressives on the court. And that's why the 6-3 conservative majority on this court is not always 6-3. You see Amy Coney Barrett and Chief Justice Roberts side with the progressives at times. And that's why she, more than anyone else, Amy Coney Barrett, owns this court. This is her court. Yes, Chief Justice Roberts is the Chief Justice, and he will swing with the progressives occasionally. But it's Amy Coney Barrett who does it more often, and who does it without any care for what the president who appointed her thinks or what his supporters think. Here's an example. This just happened in the oral argument on birthright citizenship. According to Yahoo News, Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett ripped into President Donald Trump's Solicitor General on Thursday for disrespecting one of the High Court's liberal justices. Remember, when it comes to the MAGA world, the cruelty is a point. The insults are part of the charm, right? It's about owning the libs. That was too much for Amy Coney Barrett. She wouldn't take it. Barrett, who was appointed by Trump in 2020, but has recently drawn the ire of MAGA, slammed Solicitor General Dean John Sauer for giving what she felt was an insufficient response to Justice Elena Kagan, an appointee of Barack Obama. Barrett stepped in after Sauer's answer and asked, "Sir, are you really going to answer Justice Kagan by saying there's no way to do this expeditiously?" She added, "You resisted Justice Kagan when she said, could the individual plaintiffs form a class or a class appropriate for class certification? You can see that it could resolve the question quickly." Sauer, who represented Trump in his federal obstruction case, responded, "Yes, absolutely, it could do so. I mean, we obviously dispute that." The tense interaction occurred during oral arguments regarding the legality of nationwide injunctions by federal judges. The Supreme Court is weighing the issue because the Trump administration has contested that a district judge should not be able to single-handedly stop Trump from enacting an executive order that ends birthright citizenship in America. Right. I mean, the right-wing conservatives are saying, why should one federal judge dictate what goes on in the rest of the country? Oh, remember mifepristone, the abortion drug? Remember the one hardcore right-wing judge in Texas who enacted an injunction for the entire country? I didn't hear MAGA complained then. I didn't hear the right wing complain about the power of one district court judge to do something nationally way beyond his district, or the fact that the lawyers in that case actually sought out that judge. They went to that district because they knew that in the satellite courthouse in that district, they would find this right-wing judge who would do something so radical as to ban the abortion drug nationwide. I guess an activist judge is just a judge who disagrees with you. Because MAGA loves activist judges. Oh yeah, when they're activists on their side, when they're giving their president radical immunity that has not existed before, when they're banning abortion drugs nationwide. But when it happens on the other side, that's an activist judge and they must be stopped. And the repercussions from Justice Barrett's defense of Justice Kagan and her going after the Trump Solicitor General continues to reverberate. Look, in Newsweek, just reported that the Supreme Court Justice Amy Coney Barrett's remarks in court on Thursday have sparked MAGA backlash online, with some saying President Donald Trump made a huge mistake appointing her to the bench. The nation's highest court was hearing arguments about whether lower courts have the authority to block Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship, which ensures that children born in the U.S. are citizens regardless of their parents' status. During the hearing, Justice Coney Barrett questioned the Solicitor General over the Trump administration's approach to complying with court rulings. On Thursday, during oral arguments over birthright citizenship, Barrett asked Solicitor General D. John Sauer whether the Trump administration wanted to reserve its right to maybe not follow a Second Circuit precedent, say in New York, because you might disagree with the opinion. Solicitor General Sauer said the general practice is to respect those precedents, but there are circumstances when it is not a categorical practice. Barrett then asked if he meant he believes that it is the general practice of only the Trump administration or the federal government. Sauer replied that he understands it to be the long-standing practice of the Department of Justice. Really? Responded Barrett. And then Sauer said that we generally, as it was phrased to me, generally respect circuit precedent, but not necessarily in every case. And some examples might be a situation where we're litigating to try to get that circuit precedent overruled and so forth. He responded. So, to put this in perspective, this is where Amy Coney Barrett is grilling the Solicitor General over the Trump administration's refusal to adhere to the decisions of federal judges. And the Solicitor General here, Sauer, is saying, it's just that, we're not going to adhere to it because we disagree with it and we'll appeal it, but essentially saying we don't have to abide by it if we're going to appeal it. And this is her response, quote, "So you're still saying generally, and you still think that it's generally the long-standing policy of the federal government to take that approach?" She said that during another back and forth. Sauer responded in the affirmative. One Twitter account user, I don't call it by the other name, called Spitfire, who has America First in his bio, wrote, "Justice Barrett was a huge mistake. Her contempt for the Trump administration is obvious in her line of questioning." So Amy Coney Barrett is in disbelief because she thinks, like the rest of us, that if a judge makes a ruling, you have to follow the ruling. Even if you appeal it, you still have to obey the ruling. You can't defy it thinking that it's just going to get overturned on appeal. And when you think a judge screws up or does something you don't like, the answer, as Chief Justice Roberts has said, is to appeal it. It's not to bash the judge and to demand that judge's impeachment. That's not how it works in democracy. You just don't get to impeach judges because you don't agree with their rulings. And this is a judge their own side appointed. Remember when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died? There were a lot of people who thought this was going to be it. This is the most radical change that you can imagine. In fact, I had a friend, well, call her a friend or not, but she's very MAGA, and she wore a shirt that said ACB. Instead of RBG, it was a takeoff of RBG with the crown that RBG used to wear in those memes. Well, this was Amy Coney Barrett, and it was her belief that she was going to radically transform the court. Not so fast. And one last thing. Another reason why Amy Coney Barrett has generated so much anger on the MAGA side is not just in her rulings, not just in her words, it's also her dirty looks she gave on Donald Trump after the State of the Union speech. Check this out. This was Justice Barrett giving Trump the stink eye as he walked by her. Remember, he's the one who appointed her. So that set the MAGA world on fire. Well, there you go. Hey, you appoint someone who's young, who relatively, for the court's sake, you appoint someone who you just trust others is going to be some revolutionary. Maybe you should read her rulings for yourself. Maybe you should judge for yourself, because she turned out to be the most centrist of the three justices appointed by Donald Trump. And although she has erred, and I'm not giving her a pass on Roe versus Wade overturning 50 years of precedent, but I will say that she's turned out to be the best of the three justices appointed by Trump, and she's not going anywhere on this court. Too bad, MAGA. You're not going to be able to impeach her. You're not getting rid of her. She'll be on this court for many years to come. So that's the latest. I'm Dave Aronberg, former state attorney for Palm Beach County, a.k.a. the Florida lawman here on Legal AF. Thank you for all your support. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share with a friend, leave a comment below, and I'll see you next time.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.